The Tao flows without asking. Karma returns everything you do. Stoic fate ties every moment into a perfect chain. Are you really in control, or negotiating with forces older than you? Before we begin, let's clarify what we mean when we talk about these invisible forces shaping your life. The Tao is the impersonal flow of nature itself. No agent behind it. No judgment. No purpose. Just process. Karma is the law of moral cause and effect. What you plant, you harvest. Not punishment, but consequence. Actions ripple through time, sometimes across lifetimes. Hymarmena, or fatum in Latin, is the Stoic concept of fate. Not random chance, not divine whim, but rational, inevitable, perfect causation, the chain of the Logos, linking every moment to every other moment in an unbreakable web. Prarabdha karma is karma that's already in motion, karma from past actions, even past lives, that you cannot change. It's ripening now. Sanchita karma is the accumulated karma stored from all your past actions, waiting to ripen. Agami karma is the karma you're creating right now, with every choice, every word, every intention. These aren't just abstract ideas. They're three radically different answers to the question, why did this happen to me? Here is an ancient story, told in various forms across Taoist and Zen traditions. A farmer lived in a small village with his son. They had one horse. One day, the horse ran away. The neighbors came and said, "What terrible luck." The farmer replied, "Maybe." A few days later, the horse returned, bringing 3 wild horses with it. The neighbors came and said, "What wonderful luck." The farmer replied, "Maybe." The farmer's son tried to tame one of the wild horses. He was thrown off and broke his leg. The neighbors came and said, "What terrible luck." The farmer replied, "Maybe." A week later, military officers came to the village, conscripting all young men for war. The farmer's son, with his broken leg, could not go. The neighbors came and said, "What wonderful luck." The farmer replied, "Maybe. You live in a world obsessed with control. Self-help culture tells you, manifest your desires. You create your reality. You're the author of your story. But then trauma strikes. Illness, accident, loss. And the question rises like smoke. Why did this happen to me? Some say it's random, chaos, meaningless chance in an indifferent universe. Some say you attracted it. Your vibration, your thoughts, your fault. Some say it's a test, a lesson, God's plan. Modern science says it's determinism, physical cause and effect, neurons firing, genes expressing, no freedom, just biology. Existentialism says it's radical freedom, which is terrifying. You're responsible for everything, and nothing has inherent meaning. So which is it? Are you steering the ship, or just rearranging deck chairs while the current takes you where it will? 3 ancient traditions looked at this question and offered 3 profoundly different answers. One said, there is no why, just flow. One said, you planted this seed in a past you don't remember. One said, this was always going to happen, and your task is to accept it with dignity. Let's see if any of them are right. Taoism begins with a radical observation. The universe has no opinion about you. The Tao, the great flowing process of nature, doesn't care if you succeed or fail, doesn't reward virtue or punish vice, doesn't have a plan for your life. Mountains rise, mountains erode, rivers carve canyons, stars are born, stars die. You are part of that same process. No more special than a river, no less. This sounds cold, but Taoists don't mean it that way. They mean, stop expecting the universe to conform to your idea of justice. Good things happen to bad people. Bad things happen to good people. Not because of cosmic injustice, but because good and bad are human judgments. The Tao doesn't recognize them. The Tao Te Ching, in Chapter 5, says it starkly. Heaven and earth are not humane. They regard all things as straw dogs. The sage is not humane. He regards all people as straw dogs. Straw dogs were ceremonial objects used in ancient Chinese rituals, treated with great care during the ceremony, then discarded and trampled afterward. The Tao treats everything this way, not with cruelty, but with indifference. You are honored in your moment, then the moment passes, and the Tao moves on. This is Xiron, self-soness. Things happen because that's what they do. Water flows downhill because that's water's nature. Fire burns because that's fire's nature. You were born because conditions aligned. You will die because conditions will change. No karma to balance. No fate to fulfill. Just process. Picture a river after a storm. It carries leaves, branches, stones, pieces of wood. It doesn't choose what to carry, doesn't judge what's worthy, doesn't have a plan for where each item should go. It just flows, and everything flows with it. You are one of those branches. The river isn't punishing you, isn't rewarding you, isn't testing you. It's just carrying you. The question is, will you fight the current or flow with it? Here's a small practice. Today, when something happens that you immediately label bad, pause. Don't suppress your reaction, but also don't feed it. Just observe. Say to yourself, this happened. Not, this bad thing happened. Not, why me? Just, this happened. See what changes when you remove the judgment. Often, the event itself is neutral. The suffering comes from your story about the event. The Tao has no story. Only you do. Now karma enters the conversation and says, no, the universe is not indifferent. There is a moral order. Karma, in Sanskrit, means action, but it's more than that. It's action plus intention, creating consequence. You plant a seed, you get a tree, not punishment, not reward, just cause and effect in the moral dimension. Buddhism and Vedanta both teach karma, but with different emphases. Vedanta says, you carry karma across lifetimes. You are reborn again and again until all karma is resolved, until you realize you are Brahman. Buddhism says, there's no permanent you carrying karma. But the process of karma continues. Actions create conditions. Conditions create more actions. The chain continues until it's broken through enlightenment. Both agree. What you're experiencing now is the fruit of past actions, and what you're doing now is planting seeds for future experience. There are 3 types of karma. Sanchita karma, the accumulated karma from all your past actions, perhaps across many lifetimes. It's stored, waiting to ripen. Prarabdha karma, the karma that's ripening right now. The portion of Sanchita karma that has been selected to manifest in this life. You cannot avoid it. It must be experienced. Agami karma, the karma you're creating right now, in this very moment, with your choices. So when something happens to you, an illness, an opportunity, a loss, a gift, the karmic explanation is, this is prarabdha. This is the fruit of past actions ripening now. Your task is not to resist it, but to respond virtuously. Because your response creates agami karma. You're planting seeds even as you're harvesting old ones. Here is a story from the great Indian epic, the Mahabharata. After the devastating war between the Pandavas and Kauravas, King Yudhishthira, the eldest and most righteous of the Pandava brothers, decides to renounce the world. He and his brothers, along with their wife Draupadi, begin the final journey to the Himalayas, to ascend to heaven. One by one, as they climb the mountains, Draupadi falls and dies. Then one brother, then another, then another. Yudhishthira continues, grief-stricken but determined. Only one companion remains with him, a dog, a stray dog that has followed him faithfully from the beginning. Finally, Yudhishthira reaches the gates of heaven. Indra, king of the gods, appears in a celestial chariot and says, "Yudhishthira, you have lived with perfect righteousness. Enter heaven." But then Indra says, "The dog cannot enter." Yudhishthira looks at the dog, this creature who has been loyal, who has asked for nothing, who has walked beside him through the worst grief of his life. He turns to Indra and says, "Then I will not enter either. This dog has been my faithful companion. To abandon one who has been loyal is the greatest sin. I will not do it, not even for heaven." Indra, astonished, says, "You have lost your wife, your brothers, your entire kingdom, and now you refuse heaven for a dog?" Yudhishthira replies, "Dharma is not conditional. I do not abandon those who depend on me, regardless of the reward." At that moment, the dog transforms. It was Dharma itself, the principle of cosmic righteousness, testing Yudhishthira one final time. And because Yudhishthira held to Dharma even when it cost him everything, he is welcomed into heaven. This story reveals the essence of karma. Yudhishthira didn't refuse to abandon the dog because he knew he'd be rewarded. He refused because it was right, because abandoning loyalty is adharma, non-righteousness. Karma is not a transaction. It's not, "I do good so I get good." Karma is alignment with the moral structure of reality. When you act in harmony with Dharma, consequences align, not because you're being rewarded, but because you're swimming with the current of the moral universe. When you act against Dharma, consequences misalign, not because you're being punished, but because you're swimming against the current. The Dhammapada, one of Buddhism's foundational texts, opens with these lines: "All that we are is the result of what we have thought. The mind is everything. What we think, we become." The Bhagavad Gita says, "The intricacies of action are difficult to understand. One must know what is action, what is forbidden action, and what is inaction. Karma is subtle. You can act virtuously and still suffer. Because you're experiencing prarabdha karma from the past, you can act selfishly and prosper temporarily, but you're planting seeds that will ripen later. The timeline is long, sometimes lifetimes long." This can sound like victim blaming. You're suffering because of your past karma. But that's a misunderstanding. Karma doesn't justify cruelty. It explains patterns, and more importantly, it places responsibility. You are creating your future right now. Here's a moment of self-inquiry. Look at your life as it is right now. Where you are, what you have, who you're surrounded by. This is the result of thousands of small choices. Choices you made years ago, choices you made yesterday. Now ask, where will you be in 5 years? That future is being created now. Today's choices are seeds. What are you planting? Not out of fear, not to manipulate outcomes, but out of awareness. You are always planting. The question is, what crop do you want? Try this practice. Before you act today, before you speak, before you decide, before you respond to someone, pause for just a breath. Ask yourself, what karma am I creating right now? Not as a burden, not as moral anxiety, just as awareness. Am I planting anger or patience? Deception or honesty? Selfishness or generosity? You're planting something either way. Might as well plant consciously. Then Stoicism arrives with a third answer. The Stoics say, everything that happens is fated, determined, inevitable. Not by a personal God making decisions, not by your past life karma, but by the Logos, the rational structure of the universe itself. Every event is linked to every other event in an unbreakable chain of cause and effect. Nothing happens by chance. Nothing could have been otherwise. This sounds like it destroys freedom. If everything is fated, what's the point of choosing? But the Stoics make a subtle distinction. External events are fated. Your response is free. You don't choose whether you get sick. That's determined by biology, environment, the vast causal web. But you choose how you respond to sickness, with courage or cowardice, with acceptance or bitterness, with dignity or despair. This is prohairesis, your ruling faculty, your capacity for reasoned choice. It's the only thing that's truly yours. Epictetus, in the Enchiridion, offers a prayer that captures this perfectly. Lead me, Zeus and thou destiny, to the goal I was long ago assigned. I will follow without hesitation. Even if I become base and refuse, I will follow nonetheless. Read that again. Even if I refuse, I will follow nonetheless. You will follow your fate whether you accept it or not. The only question is, will you follow with dignity or be dragged? This is the Stoic teaching. Amor fati, love of fate. Not just tolerate what happens, not just endure it, love it, because it could not have been otherwise. Marcus Aurelius writes in his Meditations, "Everything harmonizes with me which is harmonious to you, O universe. Nothing for me is too early or too late which is in due time for you." This is radical acceptance, but it's not passivity. The Stoic doesn't say, "Everything is fated, so I'll do nothing." The Stoic says, "Everything is fated, including my effort. So I will act with virtue, knowing the outcome is already determined, but my character is what matters." You don't control results, you control your response, and that's enough. Picture this ancient Stoic image, a dog tied to a moving cart. The cart is moving. That's fate. The dog cannot stop the cart, but the dog has a choice. Walk alongside the cart willingly, or resist, be dragged, and suffer. Either way, the cart goes where it goes. The dog's freedom is in the quality of the journey. You are the dog. Life is the cart. You don't steer it, but you choose how you walk. Here's a Stoic mental exercise. Think of the worst thing that ever happened to you, the event you wish could be erased. Now ask yourself, if this event was necessary for me to become who I am now, can I accept it? Not love it, not be grateful for the pain, just accept it as part of the chain. If you remove that event, you remove yourself, because you are the sum of everything that shaped you. The Stoic says, yes, I accept it, because it could not have been otherwise, and I am here now, and I can still choose virtue. Try this micro-test today. When something frustrating happens, traffic, a canceled plan, someone's rudeness, pause. Say to yourself, this is what the Logos decided. My task is not to change what happened. My task is to respond with virtue. See how that changes your anger. Often, the anger dissolves, because you've stopped fighting reality. Now let's test all three philosophies with a difficult scenario. A child is born with a severe disability. Why? The Taoist answer. There is no why. The Tao produces infinite variation. Some seeds grow straight, some grow crooked. Some plants bloom, some wither. Some children are born healthy, some are born with challenges. This is not punishment, not a test, not bad luck. It's simply what the Tao does. Nature doesn't operate according to human ideas of fairness. It operates according to its own patterns. The question, why did this happen, assumes there should be a reason, a justice, a meaning. But the Tao doesn't promise meaning. It promises flow. Accepting this is not coldness. It's recognizing what is, and then responding with compassion. Not because the universe demands it, but because compassion arises naturally when you stop asking why and start asking how can I help? The karmic answer. This child carries prarabdha karma, karma from past lives, now ripening. Perhaps actions in previous existences created conditions for this birth, not as punishment, but as consequence. But be careful. This is not the child deserves to suffer. That's a gross misunderstanding of karma. Karma is not a moral judgment. It's cause and effect. If you plant thorns, you harvest thorns, not because you're bad, but because that's what thorns do. And the parents? Perhaps their karma brought them here to learn compassion, patience, unconditional love. Perhaps this is their opportunity to create good karma through how they respond. Everything is interconnected. No one is a victim. Everyone is a participant in an infinite web of causation. And here's what's crucial. Your response now creates karma. If you ignore suffering because it's their karma, you create bad karma for yourself. Compassion is always the right response, because compassion creates good karma. But there's a danger in this view. It can become, she deserves this because of past lives. That's abuse of the doctrine. That's using karma to justify cruelty. The true karmic response is, I don't know what caused this, but I know my response matters. I can create good karma now by helping, by loving, by serving. Karma is not about judging others. It's about taking responsibility for yourself. The Stoic answer. This birth is part of the logos, the rational, ordered structure of the universe. The child was born this way because the chain of causes, genetics, biology, the moment in history, the parents' circumstances, led here. Nothing happens by chance. Nothing is unjust, because justice is a human concept. The logos simply is. This doesn't mean the suffering doesn't matter. It means the suffering is part of the whole. The cosmos is rational. This birth has a place in the pattern, even if we can't see it. The child's task is to live with virtue within these circumstances. The parent's task is the same. You don't control what happened. You control your response. Respond with love, with courage, with wisdom, with acceptance. This is amor fati, not, I'm glad this happened, but, this happened. I accept it as necessary, and I will act with excellence anyway. But there's a danger here too. Everything is perfect can become indifference to suffering, can become justification for injustice. The Stoics answer, no. Accepting fate doesn't mean not acting. It means acting without bitterness toward reality. You fight for justice because that's your duty. You care for the suffering because that's virtue. But you accept outcomes because you don't control them. You do everything you can, and then you let go. So where do they converge? All three reject pure randomness. All three say there's a pattern, a process, an order. All three say you don't control external causes. All three say, focus on what you can influence, your response, your action in this moment, your character. But they diverge profoundly on the nature of that order. The Tao says, no agent, no morality, no purpose, just flow. Karma says, there is an agent, you, across lifetimes. There is morality. Actions have ethical weight. There is purpose, spiritual evolution, eventual liberation. Stoicism says, there is an agent, the logos, the rational mind of the cosmos. There is order, perfect causal chains. There is purpose, the unfolding of rational nature. You cannot hold all three at once. They contradict. Perhaps the Tao describes what happens, the flow itself, without interpretation. Perhaps karma describes how actions connect through time, the moral dimension of causation. Perhaps Stoicism describes your attitude, how to relate to what you cannot control. Or perhaps they're irreconcilable. Perhaps you must choose what you believe when tragedy strikes. Is it the Tao flowing, indifferent and natural? Is it karma ripening, the harvest of old seeds? Is it fate unfolding, the logos weaving its perfect pattern? Your answer in that moment of crisis reveals your real philosophy. Tour, if everything that happens to you is either random flow, karmic justice, or rational fate, how does that change what you do next? The Tao flows without asking. Karma returns everything you do. Fate binds every moment into a perfect chain. But there's one thing all three traditions say you must do. Practice. Not just believe. Not just understand. Practice. Next video we're going to walk through the meditation versus contemplation versus wu-wei. Which path? Does it actually brings clarity? See you there.